My name is Eric Gerard, and I am with Tm22.
And Erica Tennyson and Tm22.
Dawood Zahed, Tm22.
Hello, Anup Brillard, Tm22.
Aparna Kalmik, Tm22. What is the primary challenge that Starbucks is facing right now? And the issues concerning the company's performance and long-term viability. So like we know, Starbucks history started in 1971 as just a small coffee shop, and now it has become a international chain. So in my opinion, some of the challenges that I have listed is, we know it's a competitive market. There are a lot of the small scale vendors and the companies who also offers the coffee services. So that itself is challenging because the environment is changing. There is a shift in the market, and people with COVID and pandemic have gotten a chance to think about new businesses. So that has raised more competition to Starbucks. So in the short term, I think that's a big challenge for Starbucks to think about emerging businesses that are providing coffee services and trying to mimic the experience that Starbucks is trying to give. So that I have written there. Of course, their selling point is their premium coffee and keeping their grocery store. And it has always been a challenge from get-go, because when they were doing international expansion, they had to implement specific strategy, show the international market like it is a premium brand. It's a different product. So even though it's a high price, but that's going to give them a unique experience. And that was continuously a challenge, and they had to fight over it. They build strategy on top of it. So this is going to be always challenge for them. Recently, they announced they're going to Starbucks is planning to open 55,000 shops by end of 2031. So similar challenge, giving back to the community. Starbucks has always been in the good books of the community. They always believed in giving back to the community. We have seen them throughout the media, social media and news. So sticking to that, they have a big customer base, not only because of the premium product, but their image and their brand, and their involvement with the community, which is inclusive, their vendor, their interaction with the international stakeholders. So keeping that relation is also very important, because CEO changes. We have seen Kevin Johnson is now a premium quality product. So they are more on the high end of the price. But what makes them unique and what makes them on the profit is they charge for those premium product, but they thoroughly deliver that premium quality product as well as experience to the customer. And that enables, that's the very key that makes them to earn profit, because people have faith in their brand. People do trust their coffee beans. They are high quality. That's the key. People come to them because of that different taste and the unique experience. So I think that is the main reason they are earning high profit. It doesn't matter how much marketing you do or how much social media you use. I have seen vendors who are just like street vendors, but their quality of food and the taste is so good. Like they will choose a street vendor over a 5-star hotel or restaurant because of that taste or the, how they treat their customer. So I think the key for making their profit is basically the strategy they use to really have a premium quality product and giving the unique experience. So I think that product differentiation makes them on high profit. Long story short is what I think. What has Starbucks done to drive their relative cost and maintain their margin? Mathematically, as per Dr. Mix has taught in the video of this week, the amount of sale what they do minus however they spend on their marketing, their employee salaries. Go ahead.
Yeah, I think the points that connect to all the I agree with your points, and all that connects almost is what you were saying about, and we talked about this last week too, is the points about, or the key factor is also the leader, who they decide as a successor for their CEO is going to make a difference on all of those points you just
Brand and high quality
Do you-
product and ready
Do
to
you
pay
think
more.
that do you think that there's any element of growth strategy that also impacts their long-term profit? I feel like there's a part of their core elements that they bring, obviously, and replicate as they expand, but I do think their overall strategy, as much as the low cost strategy is heavily reliant on volume, I think that Starbucks tries to be intentional with that growth and expansion as well, and couple that with their differentiation strategy. And I think that those two elements combined really help them knock it out of the park.
Yeah. I think if I'm not mistaken, they had videos and slide in the or I think the chapter itself says you can be a low cost leader or you can be either a product differentiator. You cannot be good at both.
Both.
Maybe up
Yeah.
to some level, you may try to convince your customer showing, hey, I do have this option as well.
Yeah.
But you cannot be both. Yeah, you may have some options. So you're like 75% of your product may be product differentiated. I charge them high, but 25% of mine may be
Rights be allowed. I'll kind of touch on intellectual properties. They're basically creations of the mind. It can be anything from inventions, products, symbols, anything an artist creates. And they are basically protected by 4 different types of there's 4 different things that protect those intellectual properties: trademarks, patents, copyrights, and trade secrets. 3 out of the 4 are protected by law, here in America at least. And 1 is basically by secrecy, not letting anyone know. Patents are basically kind of is to protect inventions from direct imitations for a limited period of time. Very unique situation. For example, I'll give is there was a lady that worked with autistic children, and she didn't have the money to renew her patent on the fidget spinner. And so when she couldn't renew her patent, it became a whole worldwide wild phenomenon, just as it was a toy. So just because she lost her rights or her patent to it, she basically lost that toy, and the world kind of took over and capitalized on that toy. Trademark are basically phrases, pictures, names, or symbols used to identify a particular organization. We could think of Nike or McDonald's or even Starbucks. Copyrights, or they provide exclusive rights to the creator of the original artistic work, such as books, movies, songs, and screenplays. And then we go into trade secrets. For example, we could use Coca-Cola. No one really knows. I think 2 people in the world know the secret formula for Coke. And so basically they're protected from keeping it on the down low. And then the next question we'll go on to why IP, previous slide. Yeah.
This one?
No, the first one.
Yeah, that's it.
Why they should be allowed. They're critical to fostering innovation. If you can.
I was going to add that it just positions them for a competitive advantage, right? Like all of those elements and the IP rights allow for them to maintain that competitive advantage for whatever product or industry they're in.
right. And I think he's asking like, should this right be allowed? Yes, of course it should be allowed, because now also we have these brands like Nike, Gucci, Michael Kors, and all these the purses, shoes, you name it, we have it. But there are imitators in China sending similar brands to fulfill the need.
All about creating a competitive advantage. It creates a monopoly. And like the book was mentioning, the inventor of Slinky, how many millions have been sold, and him and his wife went and filed all the trademarks, the copyrights, everything for their invention, and it protected them and it allowed them to monopolize and have that competitive advantage, so no one can steal it.
No replicas allowed.
Exactly.
Let's go on to the next question. Should IP be discontinued as a right? Individuals will not reap the full benefits of their inventions, just like we touched on. That would also lead to less focus on research and development. If you're not benefiting from it, then what's the whole reason, right? Why are you doing what you're doing in business? People for Coke that work for Coke, their lives would be ruined. And then you go on to entire industry change, then barriers to entry would be very low as well. The recipes out there, you know how to make the same exact product, and here we are to making our entry into the market. So, is there a problem with with Starbucks IP problem with Starbucks in China? They actually had to go through a lot of hurdles. Had to register its entire major trademark in China. Had to conduct market research. Now capitalism works in China, and get a full understanding of how property rights work in China as well. Then I put the link in there.
How strategic resources and capabilities allow firms to enjoy better performance in the long run. And it's the right combination of both. So resources and capabilities that drives continuous success for a firm, and not any resource alone. And so this theory proposes that strategic resources need to be valuable, rare, difficult to imitate, and non-substitutable in order to provide the best position for a firm's long-term success and performance. And then for internal resources matters, I thought this was interesting. The advantages or strengths of resource-based views are that a firm will understand the real drivers of performance in their business.
My section was the core of the book, Playing to Win. And does it answer the question of where we should play, and how do we win, and where are we playing? Where do we want to play? Starbucks, they initially started in Seattle at the Public Market Center. Now we can find them in airports, malls, hotel lobbies. We find them on the retail space. We find them in e-commerce. On Amazon, you can order their products, have them shipped to your door. Geography, what countries do you want to compete? So they're the second largest provider of coffee in the US. Folgers is the leader within the US. But this assignment covers about their expansion into EMEA and APAC. And it's a new market. They didn't set out. They started out just with Seattle, but now they went fully global. Product types. Initially, it was all beverages, hot and cold, coffee and teas. Now they sell desserts, breakfast. You have Starbucks Rewards, which falls under that e-commerce portion. Gifts. Sending out gift cards from your chief marketing officer. You can send it out to 1,000 of your managers, auto-printed with your message. Congratulations on your sales. Here's $15. Huge market. Partnerships with Tumbler companies. And
it gave the appearance of fun in the work environment. I think that was
that too,
that was
yeah.
next, is that they're throwing the cup to the team member. Like, there's fun already. You can tell that that element was carrying forward. And I think that's what I remember. It just you're welcome into the environment, and it's fun. It just is a welcoming space and very high energy.
That's a great point. That took back memories when they would have a hiring fair. There'd be a line down the block for Starbucks. It's crazy. You don't see that anymore, but I think that's also where I'm kind of going. Is I feel that's where corporations lead to. And it leads us to our next question of how do we win and where are we currently playing? When they first came out, it was all about finer ingredients, unique customer experience that Erica was discussing. A lot of the handwritten menus that we can see here in the picture, what a Frappuccino is. Some people were experiencing it for the first time, and they won through execution and discipline. By using strategy, they quickly adjust rapidly. They were focusing on people, blind spots, shifting accordingly of, hey, let's use a marker. Let's write that on, call your name out. Hey, DeWood. And it's very personal, something that other coffee shops were not doing. And it led me to think, to Starbucks, are they aware? Are they aware of everything that's going on? Are they acting wisely, consciously? Are they creating cognitive momentum and bandwidth? Is it too thin or reinforcing? And I think they're going in the wrong direction. I think of Starbucks now, I hear about what I see in the news, eliminating straws with the new cups, the unisex bathrooms. I don't really hear about the unique experiences anymore, but it's more.
You're just constantly reminded. So anytime you hear on the news, it's just like a bonus almost of additional things that they're doing.
Yeah, I just feel they already earned their place over the journey of 50 years. They already have set up their brand. So what competitive strategy they are doing right now is what current affairs are, what are the current problems, or what are the current demands from the customer. So they want to get treated properly. Like you said, they have unisex bathrooms.
The difference between low-cost leadership and differentiation. Low-cost leadership does not translate into mirroring the competitors' products or services. It's a combination of creative strategy that acts upon execution to ultimately you want to crush the competition. And I say I put a picture in there of the pumpkin spice. I feel like that was the first time I ever heard of pumpkin spice. And brought up other questions. Will you purchase an Apple laptop? Or will you purchase the computer with the $1.99 price tag? Are you going to purchase 7-Eleven cup of coffee that's sitting there in the pot that's on the warming plate? And what about flying to Hawaii? Are you going to book with American Airlines? Or are you going to book economy and book with Southwest? Competitive advantages they could be everything from what DeWood said with IP, trademarks, patents, going down to low cost, or being completely different with the Frappuccino. No one that I know of made something like that and swirled caramel within the cup. And you would think that every strategy creates winning, but it's not always right. But with what Starbucks does, they're usually the first to the market with what Aparna was saying. And it made me question, does this create competitive advantage? Partnering with K-Cups, being the first to make an innovative smart coffee, removing the straw, rebranding themselves with new logos, removing not writing your names. Anouk said, it's the only place that people take the time to go over her name. but is pivoting and printing a sticker and slapping that on, does that take away from their creativity? And that's everything here.
I see I see that you work with Hilton Hotels, Eric.
Yes.
Would you say that Hilton, in a sense, creating like sub like a break off of Hilton, like True, do you think that that was something they were doing for a competitive advantage? Like True by is it True
True by Hilton.
Yeah, it's like several different ones.
I would say that's the people at the round table believing what they think millennials want.
Review around environmental analysis and how firms should conduct that, and asked us to reference or be sure to incorporate the Pestel analysis tool, and also the Porter's 5 Forces analysis tool. So essentially, environmental analysis is a key practice in strategic management. I think you know, we all understand the elements that are included in that. It typically will require businesses or individuals to do research and incorporate that learning into a better understanding of what's happening around them and how that might impact or influence the business. I think environmental analysis will often include internal and external elements, and scanning those environments. I align, you know, I think internal is within the business. So essentially, if you think about that, that's going to be, you know, making sure that you're scanning inside the business, understanding, you know, what your employees are thinking, how human resources are impacting the business environment, how information technology might be impacting the business, et cetera. I think when you start to add elements of external scanning or external environmental scanning really at its base, that to me aligns with a lot of the course materials. Elements include both the micro and macro level constructs inside that, right? And I think the micro really ties and aligns, I think, nicely with Porter's 5 Forces analysis. If you think about those things, they're, you know, consistent with understanding the behaviors of your competitors, you know, consumers, suppliers, that kind of construct of what you would want to know about your environment. And then the macro, in I think the way that we would think about that, those will be things for even new product launching. So I think in that regard, that all made sense to me, aligns pretty consistently with what I've experienced. And so I think we can go on to the next slide.
Yeah, they definitely did that with going into APAC. And the first time I experienced it, seeing that there's different cultures, is going into a McDonald's in Hawaii. They have Spam and eggs, and then in the readings, Starbucks added the special wraps within the Indian for their culture, and I think that's key. And there's also no
you know, I would say by our governor, and I would say that just because of that, our numbers went through the roof as people were coming in. Hey, it's essential business. They were allowed to stay open. So because of the external political factor, you know, we saw larger numbers.
Yeah. I think the other interesting construct inside this is that the formal process of strategic planning will always include or incorporate internal and the environmental scan and analysis, and it'll be, you know, incorporating internal and external. But I think that another important note is that it really is a constant process. It has to be a continuous process, because there are elements that, despite, you know, those formal timeframes that you may be completing that exercise to prep for a strategic plan launch, might make sense. But when something surfaces in the environment, you know, even listening to Aparna, it's like, well, when a wildfire occurs and now your business is, you know, not able to operate because supplies can't make it to it, or the community surrounding has been evacuated and there aren't any customers to serve, or however that will play. It's like you have to be able to continuously monitor your environment and then adjust as needed to, you know, basically tolerate or even survive some of the challenges that might emerge. So, and then to your point, Dawood, it's like, well, that's an opportunity that presented itself as a result of some of the events that were happening, you know, with the pandemic. So it's just interesting to think about how that really is almost a continuous process that has to be incorporated for businesses to be successful.
We really like it. It's just like Taco Bell, but not. And they opened like 4 of them in Dallas. They all failed. No one in Dallas likes Del Taco. They like their Tex-Mex and their Tex-Mex style retailers. And some people were thinking, will In-N-Out fail? That was a question too. And it was a big test from what I've seen, but it just shows you that it works in California, it doesn't work in Texas. It's weird,
right?
But true.
Know your surroundings, know what your, you know, market is interested in, right?
Mm-hmm.
Who's your audience? Who's your customer base?
Yeah.
So
your point was sorry.
No,
it was
ahead.
just about your point was so important. I think, especially today, is just like getting different people in those to answer those questions or to review all of that information, because it's generally the same people in that company, and it doesn't move and it's not diverse, and that makes a huge difference on the company. For example, like I currently work at a international, or it's a global multinational company, aerospace company called Safran, and they're based in France. And so everything that's from corporate is from France. And when all the decisions are made from just one culture,
you know, business executives should take the opportunity to examine all the elements, because that's how they really get to where their opportunities and threats lie. And then they can adjust their strategies accordingly as a result. So, and then the next slide really just goes into a little bit more of the elements tied to Porter's 5 forces analysis, which I'd referenced earlier as well. Really fits more in that micro environment, you know, factors, and how those would, I think this one focuses more on how it would impact potential profit, more than thinking about it as an opportunities or threat, to elicit opportunities or threats. So I think that's probably one of the major differences in the differentiators in between the tools. But I think, you know, both are valuable to their in different ways.
Yeah, they say if you don't have any threat, considering all these 5 factors, then your profit margin is definitely going to be high. But I always feel it's highly impossible, because there is always that white space where you don't know. You think you are a leader or you don't have any competitor, but there may be somebody somewhere down the line building their path or already there. It's just like not aware of.
And
but yes,
I